Hey y'all, it's Kim from Chim and Cad. I'm here with another Broadway review. This time it's Gypsy with Audra McDonald. Stay tuned to hear all of my thoughts and cheers. Let's get going. So this is another revival for Gypsy. Some people think it's one of the best American musicals. The lyrics were done by Stephen Sondheim, but not the music. So let's talk about the show in general, and then we'll get into each of the different performances. This was my first time seeing Gypsy live on stage. I've seen the movie and also the TV broadcast with Bette Midler, but I've never seen it as a full production. I thought this one was really worthy of the legacy and the idea that this is an iconic American Broadway show. So let's talk about it. You know, this is based on a true story of Gypsy Rose Lee and her life. She had written a book, and creators then decided to turn this into a Broadway musical. Gypsy Rose Lee, otherwise known as Louise, was the older sister of baby June, and their mother, Rose, was one of the original stage moms in real life. This was back in vaudeville time, so it was predating even Broadway shows. But it was said that Gypsy Rose Lee came up with people like Fanny Brice when they were doing things like Ziegfeld Follies and such before Broadway really took on and before actual movies started becoming a thing. So again, this is the original sort of stage mom story. It's less about the actual children and more about the mother. You might want to look at a recent interview that Audra McDonald did for CBS Sunday Morning, and she explains, along with the director George C. Wolfe, sort of their take on this new revival. Okay, so as the show starts, you're introduced to the two girls, one being baby June, the other big sister Louise, who's sort of always in the background playing bit parts like part of the cow, and baby June really is the highlight of the show. And then their mother, Rose, is the ultimate saleswoman. She's constantly pushing other people around her, mostly men in this business, to give her daughters a chance. And you see throughout the musical that she'll do anything for them, but there's also this conflict because she's really doing it for herself, to kind of glorify her as a mother, but also to put food on the table. You see they live not a very extravagant lifestyle, and their money is really being stretched from day to day to put on these productions and go from stage to stage across the United States to sort of keep going. So one gig sort of gives them enough to go to the next place and get another gig. The other main character of this show is Herby, and he becomes their agent and manager and is somewhat a love interest with Rose, although Rose is always standoffish with Herby until the very end. So overall, I really enjoyed the production. I think they did well. There have been some criticisms about the set not being extravagant. So honestly, I don't think the set needs to be extravagant because it's more about the acting and singing. But to those people's credit, I also don't think that this is going to be nominated for a Tony for set design necessarily, with all the other big things that are going on this year. And it's funny because you see Jamie Lloyd's Sunset Boulevard, which is stripped down with hardly any set and props and very minimal sort of black costumes on everybody. Yet there's something to be said about the artistic quality of that and the choices that were made. I do think this could get some Tony noms for costuming, because the costumes, although again aren't as extravagant as some shows we've seen, they really play to the characters and what they're going through, and sort of are stretched when they're they're more hurting for money, versus once Gypsy Rose Lee actually becomes a famous burlesque star, they become more extravagant from there. You see different things like the tapestry being made into coats across the show, and so I think there could be nods to costuming. I know the Tonys like to really award nominations, especially to period pieces, so I definitely think this could go that way. I definitely think this is going to get a Tony nomination for Best Revival of a Musical. Without a doubt, people have been talking about this from the announcement on, and it's only that much better with its star. So with that, let's start talking about the performances. Let's start with the kids. If you know this show, you know that the first act has a lot of kids in it. And of course, the two girls, Baby June and Louise, are the stars of the show. And I thought all the kids were amazing and well directed. And with that said, it's also not really about the kids, right? That's not why you're paying the ticket prices to go. So let's talk about the grown-ups. We'll start with Baby June. So Baby June is played by Jordan Tyson, and she just came off a run as the youngest Allie in The Notebook. She and Joy Woods were together, so it was really nice when they announced this that they'd be transferring to Gypsy after their run in The Notebook together. There they played the same character, and here they're playing sisters. Jordan Tyson is an amazing actress. I think she has really far to go. This, however, is not the show that really highlights Jordan's talents, and it has nothing to do with her, believe me. But because the show starts with the youngest, Baby June, and then they do this sort of switch in the middle of a scene, which I sort of had problems with. I'll tell you about that in a second. But they do this switch from Baby June to the older June, who's still trying to play a young kid. You partially don't get the fullness of Jordan Tyson's abilities. And then from there, those of you that know the show, it's been out a while, so I don't think they're spoiler alerts. Baby June ends up leaving and runs off to get married, and you don't really see her again. So if you're going to see Jordan Tyson, just know that it's a little disappointing that she's not really fully developed in this particular show as an actress. Again, just because she's not in that many scenes as herself. The other thing that I alluded to before is the switch from going from a young actor or actress on stage to the older version of themselves. They do this in the patriotic number about Uncle Sam, and you literally see Rose taking a kid and putting in a new kid, taking a kid, putting in a new kid, which I'm sure happened over the course of their travels. But this was also supposed to alert you to, oh, here's the new person playing that. So as you have somebody in Abraham Lincoln's costume, which is Louise, they're removed, and the new Louise, who is Joy Woods, gets replaced. So I saw Marley Gomes play Baby June. She, it says in the playbill, is a 4th grader, so she's actually probably 9 or 10 years old. They remove her and then put on Jordan Tyson, and then she resumes, again, sort of acting as if she's a young girl. So that said, all the young actors are very quickly replaced by the featured actors, which includes all of the ensemble who are playing the people traveling along with the sort of company for the show. Okay, let's move on to Joy Woods. I thought she did a phenomenal job. I have seen her in Little Shop of Horrors, the one at the West End Theater that's off Broadway and has been running for 5 years now. I saw her as Middle Allie in The Notebook, and she was amazing. And now she gets this role as Louise in Gypsy. So Louise's character arc is funny. So you can't, again, you kind of have to separate the character from the actress and their abilities. So Louise starts, like I said before, as very much in the background. She's the not so talented sister. She's the one that doesn't get all of the attention. She's definitely not in the spotlight until she has to be. So once baby June leaves, Mama Rose has to set her sights on somebody, and the person remaining is, of course, the big sister Louise. And so there are even, scenes and songs about how Louise is not so talented, and she's still gonna try to get by doing this act, right? Then, if you know the show, later Louise is sort of thrown into a burlesque show. At first, Rose is very cautious about doing this, and she doesn't even want her to say scenes and read part of the script. And then later, when she finds out that there is a role open, she sort of pushes Louise into it, which is the biggest sort of stage mom thing she can do. So with that, we see a big sort of character arc with Louise. She comes into her own, and then she actually becomes independent of her mother, is successful on her own, and goes on to really become one of the most famous burlesque dancers of the time. Again, hence the book that is now turned into a Broadway show. The other thing about this, just like the role is limited to Baby June and Jordan Tyson, I think there's a little limitation to what Joy Woods could do with this performance because she's supposed to be sort of in the background and almost like part of the crew, to be there but not seen. She's dressed in the cow costume. She's dressed up as Abraham Lincoln. All of these things to sort of not show her off. And then by the time she is shown off, it's obviously at the toward the end of the show. So that said, I thought Joy did a lovely job. At the very end, Louise gets her sort of star center stage act, and they call back to Let Me Entertain You, which was always Baby June's song. And then even that kind of shows a progression of her abilities as far as being very shy, but also not as talented, and then finally coming into her own. So I thought they did that really well as far as directing it, and the, again, sort of arc that we're supposed to see very quickly with Louise. And then Danny Burstein is Herby. And if you've seen this show before, or you've seen the movie or television program, Herby is sort of cast aside as well. Again, all of these characters, we could call them in the forefront, but really the main character is Rose. So with Herby, Danny does a great job, but again, he's not supposed to be stealing the spotlight as a performer and as a character. So I think Danny did well, but this isn't one that you're going to be thinking for years to come, oh my gosh, he was perfect for this part. Because honestly, I think anyone in this part is supposed to be a little bit muted, right? So it reminds me of Ramin Karimloo, who was in Funny Girl, who had some great songs and some great things, but it really wasn't about him. It was supposed to be about Fanny Bryce and the person playing it. When I saw it a couple of times, it had Leah Michelle, and that's who got the standing ovation. So great, talented actor who was, part of the show, but definitely not the star of the show, so to speak. So I say that about Danny Burstein too. He did a lovely job. He played the role very humbly, and you wanted to really like him. And at the end, you kind of knew what his demise would be. So going along and rooting for him and hoping for him was never really part of it, I don't think. Again, if you know the show. But Danny is one of my favorite Broadway actors, and I love everything he does. So again, the show's not written to put him on a pedestal. Okay, with that said, we need another cheers. This is Audra's big role. If you know anything about Audra McDonald, you know she has the most Tony Awards of any actor, actress. She has actually won all 4 categories that she's been in. So whether it's the lead or the featured actress for a musical, lead or featured actress for a play. This was actually the first role I've seen her in a musical on stage. I have seen her in 2 plays, Frankie and Johnny and the Claire de Lune, which she was nominated for a Tony Award, and also the recent Ohio State Murders, which was devastating and breathtaking, and she was nominated there as well. I've seen her in concert, one being at Carnegie Hall and another one being out of town. So I've definitely heard her sing. And sometimes concerts are so nice because they can kind of sing a repertoire of different things. So you may know she's won Tonys for Carousel, for Ragtime, for Porgy and Bess, and a myriad of other things, again, plays as well as musicals. So again, concerts are nice because she can kind of sing like everything under the sun that she's been famous for, plus other people's songs too. But this was my first time to actually see her in a musical, and it was amazing. You also know Audra from television. She starred in Private Practice, which was a spinoff of Grey's Anatomy for many years. She was in The Good Fight, and also is now on The Gilded Age. So she's been in many, many things, and again, multiple talents, awards, and there's literally nothing she can't do. I thought start to finish her acting was brilliant. You believed everything. You believed she was fighting for her kids, but also fighting for herself at the same time. From the very first moment where she walks on stage, also, pro tip, she comes on stage, the left side of the theater, stage right. So if you want to see her come down the aisle, I would book left orchestra. We happened to be in the right orchestra, so we got to look over at her, but she didn't come down our aisle. So again, left orchestra seating near the aisle would be a nice place to see her entrance. She comes in carrying her dog, which is one of the stars of the show, and immediately takes command of the stage. So again, her acting is phenomenal, top-notch, dramatic, funny, everything in between. And then, oh my gosh, her singing. I thought the singing was amazing, start to finish. There are times where she sounds like she's coming out of Summertime from Porgy and Bess. There are other times where she sounds operatic. And there are times where she sounds very jazzy and sort of grounded. There's not a single note that comes out of her mouth that isn't perfect and flawless. And it's really something to see and experience. So I would say the ticket price is worth it to just see Audra's performance. If everything else were washed away, again, no shade to any of the other actors and actresses on stage, but really you're going to see Audra. There are a lot of songs that you probably recognize from Gypsy, but the kicker, the big one, the thing that you know and want to hear is, of course, Rose's Turn. And this did not disappoint. So this is at the very end of the show, and it was everything. I don't know how she does this 8 times a week. The amount of energy, emotion, talent that has to just ooze out of her during this is unparalleled. And of course, as soon as she's done, everyone in the theater is on their feet, giving her a standing ovation for several minutes. Knowing that this is also like almost the very end of the show, there's one quick little scene after she's done. If there's something to see this season, this is the one. I would definitely see it before the Tony Awards. I think they're June 12th this year. But try to catch Audra, because if nothing else, the one song makes the ticket worth it. For sure. I mean, without even like a doubt. Audra will be nominated. Many of you know that it's probably between Audra and Nicole as far as lead actress. So we'll see. There's lots of talent out there too. I'll be doing my end of year review. I've already started making my list. I've seen about 45 different shows this year, and I'm going to rank them for you. Sort of my least favorite to my favorite. You'll have lots of probably opinions, and you might disagree with me, but stay tuned for that. So the last thing I want to talk about is the Majestic Theater. I actually never saw Phantom of the Opera in the Majestic Theater. I've seen it on tour many times, but by the time I moved to New York, it was sort of, it was just one of those shows I never got to because there were so many other things to see. And then even as it was closing, I never got around to it. So the Majestic was refreshed. It wasn't totally renovated, but as you can imagine, with Phantom being there for 35 years, 8 shows a week, they didn't have time to do anything to the theater in the meantime. So there was a nice little hiatus where they redid a lot of the things. One thing I wanted to just tell you, and we had orchestra seats, and the way the rake of the orchestra is and how steep it is, it almost felt like we were up a level. In fact, we had to walk up flights of stairs to go down to our seats in the orchestra. And so the orchestra really was staggered, almost like stadium seating, which I thought was nice because it helped with our view, but it also put us further from the stage than we thought we would be. I think we were like row M or N, something like that. And again, it was further up than I expected. So just something to think about, along with the idea that, remember, you might want to sit on the left side of the theater, orchestra left or center left, if you want to catch a glimpse of Audra running down the aisle with her dog in tow. Okay, thank you so much for watching. Feel free to leave comments. I hope this helps those of you that are making trips to New York soon, or that don't get to come and maybe want to live vicariously. I'm always happy to do a review. I don't do these often, and like I said, I've seen about 45 shows this year. So if there's a show that you are looking for, please let me know in the comments, and I'd be happy to make a quick review. And with that, cheers to live music and live performances. Keep supporting Broadway and all the shows that come through your towns. Bye.